In football, there's a type of player that comes around every generation or so, and as you'd expect, they've been commonly referred to on social media as generational players, or generational talents when talking about young players with potential. However, as with anything on social media, the term is heavily overused, but I think everyone who knows anything about football would agree that Napoli's Kvaratskhelia definitely falls into that bracket. A player who is so good just from the eye test alone, but he's also producing the output to match, having scored 12 goals and picked up 10 assists in 26 Serie A games this season, whilst also contributing with 2 goals in 9 Champions League games as well. But when we look into his more analytical stats, he appears even more impressive, as when compared against every other winger and attacking midfielder in Europe's top 5 leagues over the past 365 days, he ranks in the mid 80th percentile for his non-penalty XG and his non-penalty goals, whilst also overperforming his non-penalty XG by 0.07 per 90, and also ranking in the low 90s for his XG assisted as well, showing that Kvaratskhelia is producing elite level production, both in terms of creating and scoring goals. But his abilities don't stop there, as he ranks in the low to mid 90th percentiles for his progressive carries into the final third, and his total successful take-ons, and whilst he is only ranking around the 40th to 50th percentile for most of his progressive passing metrics, this still shows that Kvaratskhelia is a multifunctional attacker in possession, capable of progressing the ball up the pitch via his ball carrying and dribbling, whilst also then being able to provide a goal scoring and creative threat when in the final third. Now this would be impressive enough on its own for pretty much any player, but the fact that Kvaratskhelia only just turned 22 in February, and this is only the Georgians' first season in a top European league, having only played in the Georgian and Russian leagues before, tells me that Kvaratskhelia is not just a special talent at the moment, but also a player who I think is going to continue to improve, and to be honest, I think Kvaratskhelia is going to be the player in this generation who gets closest to competing with Haaland and Mbappe. See, there's no doubt in my mind that with Haaland and Mbappe, they will be 2020's Messi and Ronaldo, but I don't think they'll dominate for the whole decade in the way Messi and Ronaldo did. And like with Suarez in 2013 to 2015, Neymar 2015 to 2017, and Lewandowski in the early 2020s, I think there will be periods of the next decade when someone else is able to compete with those two, and Kvaratskhelia is a player I expect to do this, and at the very least finish in a top 3 of the Ballon d'Or within the next 3 to 5 years. I think there's a good argument to be made that Kvaratskhelia should be in the top 5 of the Ballon d'Or this year, as other than Mbappe at PSG, Haaland at Man City, and Osimhen at his own club, I don't think there's really been anyone else for sure who goes ahead of him in that list. Now in regards to Manchester United, you're probably wondering why Kvaratskhelia would even be someone I suggest, given the fact that United already have Rashford as a starter in the Georgians' left wing position, with Garnacho a solid backup and long-term option there as well. Well, it's actually because I think Kvaratskhelia could be used in what essentially would be the side centre forward from a starting position, but in reality would be very much a false 9 role, and even border on what you would consider to be a trequartista role, which is basically a false 9 with greater freedom to roam. Now this of course would take some work on the training ground and some time for Kvaratskhelia to adapt, but I think the long-term payoff could be insane. But this type of player being used in what is a fairly revolutionary role in the modern game is actually something we have seen before. In the 2006-2007 season, Lionel Messi had his initial breakout, being a player who, like Kvaratskhelia, had an extremely fluid technical dribbling ability, and despite being a player not blessed with great pace, Messi, like Kvaratskhelia, was incredibly quick and direct with the ball, and like Kvaratskhelia this season, Messi in 06-07 was also beginning to add output to his game, scoring 14 goals in 26 La Liga games and 17 in 36 in all competitions by the end of that season. In 07-08, Messi at the age of 20 years old still wasn't hitting more than 20 goals for the whole season, but he was still putting up more than 15 for goals and assists for the whole season, about the level that Kvaratskhelia is at now, with Kvaratskhelia just being 2 years older. But it was in 08-09, Guardiola's debut season at Barcelona, where Messi would go to another level, and by the summer of 2009, the question that would come to dominate the next decade of who was the best player in the world, Ronaldo or Messi, had been ignited. That season, Barcelona would go on to do an unprecedented treble that would end up being the first of 2 trebles for Messi at Barcelona. Messi that season would score 23 goals in 31 La Liga games, alongside 6 and 8 in the Copa del Rey and 9 and 12 in the Champions League. And as those stats show, Messi was absolutely crucial for all 3 trophy victories that season, scoring a total of 38 goals and picking up 19 assists in 51 games in all competitions. And whilst I think Kvaratskhelia at the moment is at the Messi 2007 level. It's still a pretty good level to be at, considering he came third that year in the Ballon d'Or, behind Ronaldo and the eventual winner Kaká. But I do think Kvaratskhelia could make the next leap to really challenging for the title of the world's best player, as Messi was able to do in 2008. And the reason I say this and link Messi in the early part of his career to Kvaratskhelia is because Messi was able to go to another level when Guardiola started to deploy him as a false 9 with 2 wide forwards in Eto'o and Henry either side, which is exactly how I would like to see Kvaratskhelia in Ten Hag's front 3. So we've seen just how good Kvaratskhelia is, but in another video which should be linked in the description when it is out, I will be tactically analysing how the Georgian could function as a false 9 with Antony and Rashford being used as wide forwards either side of him.